Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 19th verse of the 17th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Kechid Vikalpa Vasana Ahur Atmanam Atmanaha Daivam Anye Apare Karma Swabhavam Apare Prabhum. The meaning of this verse is, some of the philosophers who deny all sorts of duality declare that one's own self is responsible for his personal happiness and distress. Others say that superhuman powers are responsible, while yet others say that activity is responsible. And the gross materialists maintain that nature is the ultimate cause. So, Dharma, the personality of religion, is replying to Parikshit's question, who is the cause of your suffering? So in the previous verse, 18th verse, we discussed that Dharma says there are different theoretical philosophers who put forward different theories as to the ultimate cause of suffering. And Dharma says general people are confused. We do not know whom to actually accept as correct. So in the purport, previous verse purport, Prabhupada had said, generally there are 6 great philosophers. And I mentioned in the previous session that I shall tell you briefly what are their philosophies, the 6 great philosophers. Now that is being described by Dharma himself. Those 6 philosophers are mentioned by Dharma. 4 are mentioned here in this verse. The first one is, one's own self is responsible for his personal happiness and distress. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, as referred to above, philosophers like Jaimini and his followers establish that fruitive activity is the root cause of all distress and happiness, and that even if there is a superior authority, some superhuman powerful god or gods, he or they are also under the influence of fruitive activity because their reward result according to one's action. The first philosopher being mentioned by Dharma among the many philosophers, 6 great philosophers. First one is Jaimini. Jaimini is one sage who has put forward a philosophy, a theory, that the cause of suffering is one's own actions. And he calls it Karma Mimamsa philosophy. Karma Mimamsa philosophy. What is this Karma Mimamsa philosophy? It says that if I am suffering, it is my own past specific action which I have performed, that is the cause of my suffering. And not only suffering, if I am enjoying, then the enjoyment also is my own past pious activity I have performed. And if I am suffering, it is my own past sinful activity. So Jaimini analyzes people can perform either sinful activity or pious activity. If they perform pious activity, they are going to get enjoyment or happiness. If they perform sinful activity, they are going to get suffering or pain or some distress. This is Jaimini's analysis. He says, beyond this, there is nothing more. This is Jaimini's analysis. So his analysis is based on karma mimamsa philosophy that he has put forward. He says, ultimately, even if there is some god or gods, devatas, even if there are some powerful beings, they are all bound up ultimately by the laws of karma. And according to the law of karma, everybody's suffering or enjoyment is according to the law, and that law states you suffer your own past misdeeds and you also enjoy your own past pious activities. So, Jaimini's explanation is that even if somebody is a devotee of some supreme god or devotee of some devata or believer of some higher controller, still that controller or controllers or supreme lord has to award the results of one's past activities, and those results are awarded in terms of suffering or happiness, enjoyment. This is karma mimamsa philosophy as put forth by Jaimini Rishi. Now, Jaimini Rishi is not simply stating the way I am stating in just a few sentences. No, he has given evidence from the original Vedas. He has studied the Vedas on his own, and he has put forth the statements of the Vedas to support his philosophical explanation of the cause of suffering that we see around us in this world among different people. So he says, whoever or whatever be the position or authority or power or control exercised by anybody in this creation, ultimately everyone is bound by the laws of karma, and the laws of karma means each one has to suffer his or her own past misdeeds or pious activities. This is in essence the karma mimamsa philosophy. Then what about the sanction of the Supreme Lord, or what about the control of the devatas? That Jaimini Rishi says their control is also subject to the law of karma. Their control is subject to law of karma. So law of karma is above the devatas, above God, above Paramatma, above all living beings, above everything. So this Jaimini Rishi holds law of karma as the supreme. This is his conclusion. Now, the refutation of this karma mimamsa philosophy as erroneous or incomplete, I would not say erroneous, I would say incomplete, is pointed out by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva, when presenting Vedanta Darshana or Vedanta philosophy, he has refuted the other 5 philosophers and pointed out that there is some merit in what they are telling because they are basing it on the Vedas. There is something correct in what they are putting forth as the philosophy of their own respective analysis, but there is also some defect. So the Vedic philosophies, 5 Vedic philosophies other than Vyasadeva's Vedanta Darshana, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, Karma Mimamsa, and and one more, a Sankhya. So these 5 philosophies, they have some merit, but they also are defective in some ways. So that is very clearly pointed out by Vyasadeva. Based on what? Based on the very Vedas. Based on the very Vedas that they all refer to. But Vyasadeva presents the Vedic understanding based on parampara system. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. The Vedic knowledge is originally coming from the Supreme Lord Krishna. Karma brahmodhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam. Bhagavad Gita, it is explained very clearly that the scriptures are originating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. At the beginning of creation, Tene Brahma Hrudaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yat Surayah. So in the Bhagavatam it is explained that the Shastras, the scriptures, were first imparted. The Vedic knowledge was given to Brahma from within his heart by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, at the beginning of creation. And since then, Brahma became enlightened by the Supreme Lord's mercy. Then Brahma imparted that very knowledge to his sons and his descendants. Brahma imparted to Narada. Narada imparted the same knowledge to Vyasa. Vyasa is documented in the form of this Vedic literature. Okay? So, Vyasa is receiving this knowledge and perfectly explaining everything based on the knowledge he has received along with the explanations. Along with the explanations of the various Vedic statements in the original Vedas. So, Vyasadeva, based on the original Vedas, he has explained that this Karma Mimamsa philosophy is correct to the extent that the immediate cause of a particular suffering is the sinful reaction within my heart, which is fructifying now. Therefore, I have to suffer now. If I get a disease, then a particular sinful activity I committed in the past is fructifying now, and Kala, the sanction of the Lord in terms of Kala, is enforcing that, inflicting that now upon me in terms of I contracting the disease and suffering some pain or some whatever, the infection. So this is a fact. I am suffering because of my own past misdeed. Yes. But the sanction of the Lord is the Kala. Kala is under control of Krishna, the Supreme Lord. Paramatma is Paramatma. And Paramatma sanctions who has to suffer which particular reaction of his or her own past misdeed. And Paramatma also nullifies the sinful reaction when one executes pure devotional service, because of which a person doesn't have to suffer his or her past reactions, sinful reactions. That is also there. That this Jaimini doesn't understand. He doesn't know. He doesn't understand that. Because this is confidential knowledge about the life of devotees who are engaged in pure devotional service. That Jaimini doesn't know. And it's an exception. It's not the rule. The rule is everybody has to suffer according to their own past misdeeds. According to Kala also. But pure devotees or devotees engaged in pure devotional service don't suffer exactly whatever reactions are there in their heart. Their reactions are nullified by their pure devotional service. And who does that? Krishna does it. Because only Krishna has got that power to nullify sinful reactions. Nobody else can. Only Krishna can do that. The Supreme Lord, He can do it. So in this regard, Karma Mimamsa philosophy is erroneous or incomplete. It doesn't take into account Krishna as the Lord of the enforcement of karma and kala, and Krishna can nullify if he sees somebody is engaged in pure devotional service. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.